Hey, coaches, this is Coach Lynch here, and we are going to talk about our 2-1-2 press and how we not only execute it, but also how we plan to transition it back into our 2-3 zone. So, the bulk of what we'll kind of get into is our basic teaching points. We use a little bit of film, and I have a few diagrams embedded in this. That we will kind of use to guide us through. So let's get started. All right, now I'm going to jump into sort of like quick intro here. In terms of my contact information, I have down below here, and also I'll have at the end of the presentation. My email is mflynch21@yahoo.com. Feel free if there are any questions about the press or anything in the video, please let me know. You can certainly reach out to me on Twitter, my Twitter handle right there at the bottom of the page. And then you can also check out our Coach's Corner on our LeicesterBasketball.com website. I have a ton of stuff on there. Some larger, sort of resources I've put together. Our newsletters that I try to put out every few weeks, and then blog posts, which are, some interesting things that either we do as a team or that I have seen out there in the basketball world, and wanted to kind of put together some resources for. So I'd urge everyone to take a look at the Coach's Corner and see if there's anything out there for you. Now, as far as my background goes, I'll be really quick just to get us, into the video here. But, I'm the boys basketball coach at a small high school called Leicester out in Massachusetts. We are a single town school, roughly about 450 kids. And we play in a 12-team conference where we're somewhere in the lower third in terms of size. Most of our kids are multi-sport athletes. We have a few, basketball-specific kids, but most of our kids are playing other fall sports and spring sports as well. There are some, I think, coaching specifics, and I don't know that we'll get a ton into this in this presentation, but there are some coaching specifics that do impact my own decision making from a schematic standpoint. We have no off-season coaching here. We have very limited preseason. We're talking about 2 weeks from Thanksgiving to the start of our season. We play around 18 to 19 games each year. Maximum would be 20. And then we also play with a shot clock, which, of course, I think is something we'll mention a few times in the video. And I also think is a big driver in our decision to use the 2-1-2 pressure. So just as a quick background, I think those are some key elements that we will use going forward. All right, now to get into the press here, we set up in a 2-1-2 alignment here. Generally speaking, we try to align all five of our players inside the middle third of the court. Obviously this is not, completely equal here, but this middle third of the court is where we want all five of our players. I think a side goal would to not give up layups out of this. So we want to make sure that we are protecting the rim at all costs, and getting all five players in this middle area, sort of forces the offense to the edges where we would like them to be. Now, our guard's pretty traditional. Whoever's going to be on top of our 2-3, we put at the top of this press. That is nothing unique. We do choose to put our best athlete in this X3 spot. I feel like the X3 is the most important person in the press. If you don't have an athlete that can sprint to the sideline and trap, also in some cases sprint to the backside of the defense to recover, then I think this is going to expose some holes. So getting your best athlete, I think, in this X3 spot is something that we've found to be um, successful. And then obviously in the back of the zone, we're going to get our X4 and X5 in these back two spots. Now, why do we choose the 2-1-2? I put together some bullets here, I think, to explain this best. Number one is that it flows easily into our 2-3. We don't generally have people running all over the court, trapping, 90 feet from the basket. So it flows nicely if we don't get what we want into our half court defense. To me, I think it's unique. Most presses you see are, man to man, or you'll see some version of 2-2-1, and in some cases even a 1-2-1-1 type of press. And we think this is a unique prep for other teams. Personally, I like the two guard pressure. That two guard front. I think we can pressure the ball easily, no matter what alignment teams come out with. So I like the two guard front for that fact, that we can easily play the ball and then play the swing out of that. To me, it's also really flexible. We can turn the pressure up by fronting their players, by being more aggressive with our trap. We can dial the pressure back, something that we're going to go over in this presentation here. And then, lastly, I've just always thought that it protected the rim better than a traditional 2-2-1. We always had the scenarios where the 5-man exited the rim and really opened up the middle. And, we've found that the 2-1-2 does a little bit better job of protecting the rim if they break the trap. Now, as far as the goals of the press here, I think these are our three goals. I don't know that these are in a specific order or not, but, one of the goals we have is we want to make their guards uncomfortable. And, oftentimes I think when you're watching film, you say to yourself, when the other team just simply walks the ball up the floor, like, we're giving them 10 seconds to easily get the ball towards our basket without any type of pressure. And, most coaches do that to, make sure that we're going to play 5-on-5 defense at the other end. But if we can provide pressure and also take away the layups, to me, I think that is an advantage. So getting pressure on the ball, I think, is a really important piece. We want to kill time off the clock. We also realize playing a 2-3 zone that, this is going to inevitably slow the game down. And if it's going to cost us possessions on the offensive end, then we've got to find a way to speed them up on the defensive end. And if we can get 2 to 3 turnovers out of the press, we can perhaps, maybe steal back a couple possessions and also maybe perhaps force poor possessions on their behalf here. So, we like the idea of eating into the shot clock. And obviously, like any press, you want to create those high PPP possessions, right? Those possessions where you get breakaway layups, where you get 2-on-1s. And, if you're not pressing, I think, you lose a couple of those opportunities. And I think with this, we can gain a few of those back. Now, let's get into some of our video here. Now, I'm going to, present 4 different video clips here. And in this first clip, what we're mostly talking about is getting ball pressure on your opponent. We want to make sure as soon as the ball is entered that we are in arm's length of our offensive player. I kind of put this clue here. Wherever that ball goes first, left or right, we want that player to then be within arm's length. Arm's length we feel like is a good, easy visual for our defenders. If you're more than that, you clearly can see it. And if you're less than that, you're going to get blown by. So getting that arm's length pressure, I think, is a key piece to this. And another thing that we're going to see in almost all of these clips is you're going to see X2, so the other guard, being loaded to the middle and behind the basketball. I mean, this is not a press that is taking a lot of chances in the first third of the court. So getting ball pressure and then stacking a player behind that basketball will enable us to pressure the ball while also eating clock as the time ticks away here. I didn't make a huge point of this here, but obviously our X3 is not allowing a middle touch. In fact, if there was a middle player stationed here, X3 would be sitting on that middle player until it was time for a trap of some sort here. So the only options for the offensive players are to simply move the ball back and forth, killing clock, or to force them into a speed dribble, which is what we want for the trap here. So ball pressure is the key. I'm going to pause the volume here. You can see that's a good example of our first player getting ball pressure, forcing him up the sideline. Another good job of ball pressure on that right-hand side. Freeze. This is a great place for us to sort of stop the video. Yeah, let me get back to that. You can see in this third clip here, that we have a player on the basketball. Right here, right? We got a player on the basketball, arm's length away. This player's already picked up the basketball. We've got our other guard stacked to the middle behind the basketball here. And he can take this option backwards. The one thing we don't want is this pass to go middle, then it gets skipped ahead, and the press is beaten. So we want ball pressure, arm's length, with a guard stacked behind it. Another good example here, the ball changes, so the guards change. Like pistons in a car would be a good example, right? One guard steps up to guard the ball. Our other guard should drop back towards the middle, playing behind the basketball. All right, we got a new clip here. Ball is entered. And look at these aren't even, there are no traps here. This is sort of like the example I'm talking about where, you can get 3 to 4 turnovers a game. And maybe against the best teams, you get 1 to 2, but those little possessions will add up. And I think, getting pressure on the ball is the key piece of that. Again, first guard's up, second guard is stacked to the middle. Just simple ball pressure. Now you can kind of see like this is the forward on the side, number 10 there. He runs up really high. Now in the backcourt, we've got 4 players, right? Remember, what's off screen would be our center back towards the rim, and then the other forward who was number 10. If teams are going to play 4 in the backcourt, either in like a diamond formation, or in this case, they sort of got like a 4-out formation, then you can allow your wing player to step up and get more involved. Oftentimes we might not even adjust to this at all and simply, allow them to eat the 7-8 seconds off the clock that we talked about before. Sort of a cheap steal with some ball pressure there. And these guys do a good job of getting it in quick. But what I think I would pause with here, freeze. We'll get to our middleman in just a second. Good transition offensive teams are going to get the ball in quick, get it up the floor, beat the press before it even is set. But if you can get your middleman back into position and that speed dribble is coming up the floor, that is a great scenario for a trap. Right here, got good pressure to the inside. We'll get to the trap in a few minutes, but I thought that was a good example. Again, we got ball pressure up front. Get into him a little more. perhaps a teaching point to those front two players. We're often telling them to tap up. You know, you have them within arm's length with one hand and tap up with the other. And that's hopefully how you can pick up some of these deflections without getting the foul calls. All right, I think we're down to our last couple clips here. Again, just one of our guys being real aggressive. I really like when teams go to the two-man backcourt here, right? I think this is what really allows this type of pressure to be successful. When teams do this, this is like the ideal scenario. You only have two back here. We can put a ton of pressure on the ball. We're taking away the deep skip passes anyways. So to me, that two-man backcourt is is the formation I want to see. All right, again, good example of him stacking back behind the ball. No middle from our middleman. Just good ball pressure, and then our backside picks up a steal right there. All right, now, let me just X out of this quick. Let's exit. And let's get into the half-court trap next here. Now, all those clips were sort of like, steals created with these front two guards. And they're, them doing a good job of pressuring the ball and then creating deflections. The part of this that can really create great open court steals is the trap. Now, some quick teaching points that we would tell our guys here is to make sure that we are pushing them to the sidelines. If for some reason this player dribbled hard to the middle, then we would aggressively switch that. X2 would then take the ball, and X1 would sort of slide to his sort of back position. But what we really want is this ball to get dribbled up the sideline. Now, as X1 is sort of riding the hip of that offensive player, X3 is leaving his middle responsibility, and he is shutting off the ball from the sideline. Now, obviously, our X2, which is already sort of in a good position to trail this play, is going to now shut off and take away that middle opportunity. And this guy will see a couple great steals for that person in this type of pressure. Now, the key thing here is this sideline guy is not supposed to be involved in the trap. I mean, his job in emergency cases would be to stunt and take away the sideline, but his job is simply to not allow the pitch ahead pass. The only pass that successfully can be made is when they cross, now skipping it over across court here. And, I think we can all realize as coaches that's a very difficult pass to make here. So the trap is going to create some really unique steal opportunities for our back three players here. Here, I'm going to just, let's rewind that just a second. Let's blow this screen up a little bit. So right away, I would say the ball pressure wasn't very good right there, but we get him in what we wanted to do, right? We get him to cross, and once he crosses now, this player's not an option. This guy is a really tough pass, and we're taking away his closest player immediately here. So we get a decent trap, sort of a panic pass and a steal. Again, now Freeze, this is not ideal because it's technically still in the backcourt, but we get the player to turn his back to the middle, and that should be a clear signal for the other guard, you can shoot the gap now and look for a steal. Good pressure. I would say right here, right, 20 has got to come up quicker. Bam, that's your ball. Get into him. 2, get behind number 4. That's your loaded area right there. And 15, the middleman, just be patient. Be patient and wait for the trap. Don't leave early. We get him going, close the trap, right? And this is what we want here, right? Cannot go backwards. We take away his best option. Number 10 gets up here a little bit too far. He's typically a guard, so he's, probably mixing up responsibilities here. His job would have been to stunt and take this guy away. And we're going to force this pass cross court to one of these two players. Again, get up and ball pressure. Good job by number 2. We force the trap. Easy steal for number 10. I think the key teaching point, right? These front 2 players, let's get these guys going sideline. Let's not allow them to go to the middle. Now, this team does a nice job of breaking it, but every coach knows that skip pass from one sideline to the other is asking for trouble. And even though they did a nice job sort of advancing it into the front court, we get them to throw that skip. So we should get this guard up here a little quicker. There we go. I'll get him to, right here, I would say, ball pressure, change his angle just a little bit. Close down that angle a little bit where we can force him to get up the sideline. Get him in the air. There's nowhere to go from there. That's an easy one. I had to leave that clip in there. I love that offense. All right, so now guards are stacked. Advance it to half court. Easy steal. And I think, again, this just sort of goes back to ball pressure, right? Right away, number 2 gets into him. The best teams against this will check this down back to the inbounder. Be patient. Work it to the second side. Try to get something over the top. Teams that just get it in and go off the dribble, I think, are the ones where we're going to really create steals. All right, again, we get ball pressure, skip pass, nice steal. Obviously for our middleman, we're telling them you only get one steal. You only get one trap, right? And we're not going to run around trapping all over the place. So time it, be patient, and only go if you see it as a chance for you to shut off that angle. And I think that is why it's so important to pick the right middleman for this. This is actually, these guys had advanced it so quickly that our X4 was still on his way back, and he just stopped and got a trap right here. I mean, that's not normally what it's supposed to look like, but, everyone's in a good position to take away the easiest pass here. The guards are stacked, right? And again, they get it to the middle, but everyone just got to retreat. Everyone just has to retreat. We're not going to get our trap until this part of the floor anyways. And here we're able to, sort of force a turnover just with some aggressive ball pressure. This is a good pause place. In this case, they had left 4 people up, and that number 15 is our X4. And we had said this earlier in the video, if they leave 4 in the backcourt and we want to be aggressive, then let's bring our X4 up there and let him be aggressive. And, in this game, we're playing a younger squad that year on the other team. And we just said, let's be more aggressive. Let's bring X4 up there. And he came up with a great hustle play right there. All right, so those are some pretty good examples of the trap. I mean, it's not always going to be on this right-hand side. The offense kind of dictates where it's going to be. But the bottom line is one of the guards in our X3 are trapping, our X4 and our X5 are taking away the sideline and the rim here. All right, let's get to what do you do when we don't get a steal out of the ball pressure? We don't get a steal out of the trap. We are essentially going to fall back into our 2-3. And so I kind of put together a few clips to show, they beat the pressure. Let's get back into our 2-3. All right, let's just blow this up. This first clip is a good one, I think, to show us. I think successful teams against this will do this. They'll put this diamond setup here, and this is one of the better teams in our conference, and they swing the ball really hard and quick. Obviously our goal is not to extend there. We probably could extend our X4 up into this and be more aggressive. That's just not what we were trying to do at this point in the game. But making sure that we are retreating and being in a good position to not get beat to the rim, I think, is the key. All right. Good job by those three retreating. They beat it. There's no trap. All right. Let's get back into 2-3. We're matched, and we're playing from here. I think coach calls timeout here in a second. I also think, in that clip, we were using our center as the middleman. And, I think it's the centers tend to be less aggressive. And unless you have a center that's got some real wingspan to him, I think we decided we've got to put an athlete there to be a little more aggressive with the trapping. And, that clip kind of reminded me of that. Good job. These guys are trying to send a cutter through. Just wait your time. Bam. So another good example, like we didn't get a trap. They did a nice job at least being patient, And, our wing players now are sort of naturally back in their position, and one of our wings jumps the gap. I think we get a cheap one right here. And we're back into it. Again, stack the middle, right? And this is a good example. I like this view of the court, right? I mean, we got the basketball here. Let's pressure the basketball, but let's show him three people. He sees him. He sees the next player here. He sees the middle taken away. Let's force teams to eat clock. The more clock they eat in this, the less clock we have to defend in the half court. All right, we're back in it. In good position to match up. I think we get a travel call. Yep, right there. All right, again, stack to the ball. This guy does a nice job being patient. He beats it. And we're back in the 2-3. I think what most press coaches would say is it's mental fatigue, right? And for like 32 minutes, can the other team's guards just consistently either beat it up the court with speed, or can they methodically beat it? And I think that is a real question mark at the high school level. Again, this is a good example. Their guard does at the beginning of the video, I said, we want to keep our 5 players in the middle third of the court. And this is a good example, right? I mean, this kid does a nice job beating our pressure right up the middle, advances it. But because we're taking away the layup here, we end up getting a cheap steal out of this here. So, I think that was a point I wanted to make at the end right there was, the goal is not always to get a steal in the front court. If we can get a turnover in the back court, switch that, I think it's equally as valuable. Now, I put one last video in this, and we did this a little bit a few seasons ago, and then we did it again at the end of this season. And if teams are doing a good job of beating us up the floor, we would go to what we called X pressure. So this is basically 2-3 extended. That's where the X sort of comes from. And as we can see in the diagram, all we're really doing is putting pressure on the ball with X1, taking away the middle with X2, and we're using our two wing players to stunt if the basketball is aggressively pushed forward. Now, we're not necessarily trapping, although, it may happen if one dribbles recklessly. But the bottom line is we are stunting and slowing down the basketball. And again, like our goal, eat time off the clock. Let's not let our defense have to defend for 30 seconds. And let's maybe see if we can get a steal or two. All right, so this is X pressure. Again, you can see ball pressure up top. Guard is stacked behind. What we would often say is if he dribbles across the center line, just like in the half court 2-3, 2 would attack the basketball, and then 23 would drop back into that position. So sort of like that same piston idea. Yeah. Now, in this case, if we just rewind a second, in this case, our forward is really aggressive. He comes up and attacks the basketball as opposed to just stunting. And this is sort of like a time and score. This is our against a really good team at the end of the year. And, we're down a little bit at this point in the game, so we're being more aggressive. But, certainly the typical one would have been to jab and get back. And you get a dunk like that, you got to include it in the clips too. All right, so this is a few years back here. Again, just pressure the ball. And that's just a little bit of ball pressure. The wings can shoot the gap. I think we'll see this one more time in this type of pressure. Yeah, nice job. There's that piston action. The ball changes. Middle guard goes towards. Opposite guard drops. Again, let's go back. Yeah. It's a nice job by our two guards. That was this past season. Again, this is a great example to show how we're shooting the gap. If a player dribbles it across the midline, just like in half court 2-3, we're going to be really aggressive with the other guard in shooting the gap here. It's a great opportunity to get a deflection and get one of those, undefended layups. And even in the half court, you always have a wing player that can step up and guard the ball if we miss it. Yeah, I like that clip to demonstrate that point. Again, our guards are a little bit back at this point. Good example to show how we've got to defend the rim even from the backside. All right, here's another one from this year. Again, this is the strategy, right? And we caused a couple turnovers with the two-man backcourt. They've now gone to the three-man, check it down. And so are we going to be able to get as many steals out of that? No. But our goal of killing clock and making them work, making them be patient and methodical is still in play here. All right, keep them to one side of the court. All right, we kind of force a half court. That's 15 seconds. The shot clock right here. We're 15 seconds into the shot clock, and they've not really threatened the rim at all. And I think that's a goal of X pressure, right? Is to get them to kill that clock. We haven't been, sort of like pressed to defend their half court actions, and we get a cheap turnover. Yeah, a lot of these are from these last two games of our last season. Guard the ball. These guys are checking it down again. Pick up that cheap travel. And this is the stuff I think that you have to, like if you're a more aggressive coach, right, you're thinking trap, trap, trap. But, look at forcing guys to be methodical. We're talking about high school basketball here. Guys are going to turn it over. They're going to travel. They're going to, they're going to pass the ball out of bounds, right? They're going to force it when it's not there. So being able to put pressure but take away the layups, I feel like is a benefit. Again, take away the middle, cheap turnover. A little more ball pressure, get up in there, arm's length. Now he can, bam, freeze, right? 20 goes up, they sprint by him, and this is what we would just call a fly switch. On the fly, number 2 takes the basketball. 20 is sprinting back into his top of the zone spot, and now we're ready to play half-court defense here. All right, get up there, arm's length, get into him a little bit. 2-man back. With 2 guys in the backcourt, we've got to pressure the basketball. With a 3-man check down style press breaker, we can afford to kind of wait. But with 2 men, this is a unique chance for us to put pressure with absolute help behind us. A nice job of squeezing the dribble. I think we get to the free throw line here. Again, they break the press. I think this is a good example how, they break it, but they're taking a shot within the first 10 seconds now, right? And I think that is equally beneficial to us, right? We don't have to play defense for 15 seconds. We simply played for 10, got the ball back, and now we can go get a score. So X pressure is something that's a little different than our 2-1-2, but I think it fits well. It sort of meshes with what we're trying to do with 2-1-2, and to me, I think it's a nice addition. Let's say you're playing a team that's really good off the bounce, and you feel like X pressure is a better way for you to contain the basketball, but still give full court pressure. I like that as something to go to against those kind of teams. Now, what I wanted to include in the presentation is a couple practice concepts. I'll be honest, we don't do a ton of breakdown with this kind of stuff. One drill we have used is a 3-on-3 type of drill. Maybe we'll get 3 groups of 3 going on, and we've got our 2 guards, our middleman, and we're working with 3 offensive players. I'll tell 3, look, you can't leave the center circle or 1 step away from the center circle. And, we'll say to the guards, you gotta cross to the other hash mark, right? We got to advance the ball to the other hash mark. And so either they're going to have to dribble and break it, or they're going to have to pass it and check it down and break it. And, I think this isn't going to help us against teams that do the check down press. But if we're trying to get our guys to work on arm's length, force them to the sideline, get back to the middle, this is a good drill to kind of get some breakdown action. Now, what we do a lot in practice is we'll sort of set, a game point. We'll give a point to the defense for deflections. We'll give them 3 points for a steal. We'll kind of create some incentive for the defense to sort of be more aggressive and execute the press. I like this a lot, right? Off of free throws, we're going to play it here, there, and then back again. So we get at least, 1 good session of the press. And, sometimes we'll even do this down and back twice. So we'll get, after the made free throw, we'll get a chance to run fist here. We'll play it live. And then again, if we make it, this gives them an opportunity to be yelling, fist, 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 get up into our 2-1-2 and gives us a second possession at it. So, we do a lot of this here, there, back, or down and back twice. We'll do that a lot in season if we're working on this. So, these would be the 2 big practice concepts that we work with. I mean, there's so much, chemistry building to embed in this. If there are a couple, your first 2 guard subs off the bench, put them in a group together. So there's a little chemistry between the guards that are constantly sort of working off of one another at the front of this. Now, what I, thought we would really just kind of wrap up with here is some key teaching points to pull out of this. Number 1 is you got to pressure the basketball. We're talking arm's length, right? That's our phrase we're constantly using. We're not going to get a trap in that first third of the court, but putting pressure on the ball can give us cheap turnovers, bad passes, a travel call, him dribbling into this sideline trap, or and I think getting pressure on the basketball, taking away the vision of the ball, I think is a really key thing. Get the ball handler to put it over his head or to turn his back, and I think that's a victory for the defender. No middle. I mean, one of the things that you saw in all of those clips, which are all successful clips, right, is the ball does not enter the middle. And that, I think, is a key component to this. Take away the middle first. If you get your trap, great. If you don't, that's also okay in this press. But the bottom line is to make sure that you take away that middle entry. Now, in regards to the trap, I think a simple teaching point is tell them to be patient, right? I mean, if we see a player that is putting his head down, dribbling, that's a clean read. Drop what you're doing, go make the trap, and we'll cover for you. If not, and this team's under control and they're checking it down and they're moving the ball with the pass, then be patient. Eventually we'll rotate towards the ball and you can exit to the backside and we've accomplished one of our goals. For our backside players, which we didn't discuss a ton in the videos, make sure that if you're on the ball side, you are taking away the pitch ahead, right? I mean, any press, if the ball is entered and then pitched ahead up the sideline, where is our trap going to come from? So we've got to make sure on the ball side to take away the pitch ahead. And the other defender must take away the rim. Do not worry about players on the backside half of the court. Worry about making sure that, let's say, a middleman, right, as the ball's advanced, doesn't simply leak to the rim. And you're guarding over here, X4 is guarding over here, and then we let a 5-man simply run to the rim. We are loading to the ball side. This is a zone press. So when the ball is over here, you are at the rim. If they skip it over the top, then you can turn and close out, and we'll play D from there. But I think that's a key point for our 5-man here, right? Somebody has got to have the rim, and somebody's got to have the ball side. Now, I did put a couple of resources down here at the bottom. What I'm going to do with this post is include the presentation, so you guys will be able to get the links to this. There is not a lot out there on the 2-1-2 press. I mean, I've seen a few websites here and there, but it's not one of the more popular presses. So, I did link one video I've found out on YouTube. You guys will have access to all the videos I included in the presentation. And, this Vance Downs championship production video, he calls it his 50 press. He has a little bit more matchup principles involved in his, but I think that's really interesting if you're looking for another layer to add to this video here as well. Now, my contact info is here. We already said it once. Feel free to reach out with any questions or any comments or anything that might not have been in the video that you would like to know, and I can do my best to help you answer it. Other than that, make sure you guys check out the Coach's Corner. Follow me out on Twitter, and we can talk any type of basketball that you want. All right. I think that's enough for us right here. So hopefully you guys got something out of it, and stay in touch.